Second. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll just start off with a request for bill introductions. Are there any?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Colonel Keith Marshall with the Adjutant General's Department. I have 26 RS 2836, an act concerning veterans and military. Thank you.
So does anybody have any objections to that bill or internet? Okay, it's submitted. And before we get to General Turner's going to do he's going to be our briefer this morning. But I want to remind everybody that there's no meeting next Tuesday. So you need to have all your bills in by next Thursday, because that's the last day we accept bills. So please make an effort to talk to your revisors if you got some in, and let's get that taken care of so we don't have any heartburn. So I want to introduce General Turner. You want to come on up, sir? From the Kansas Office of Veterans Services. Go ahead.
Always forget to press that button. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you very much for allowing us to share with you a little bit and provide an overview. It's a refresher for many of you, for some that are new to the committee. I'll try to do my best, sir, to stay at the wave top level. I know that you and the vice chair and the ranking member, we had a pretty lengthy discussion on this and allowed us, thank you for allowing us to kind of dive deeper into it. And I'll try to stay a little bit more above that. I'm also going to be joined today by our deputy director, who kind of oversees our veteran services operation. So I'll introduce Eric Roller, and Eric will come up to address a couple of the slides as we go into a little bit more detail. So do we have the slides up, ma'am? I'm sorry. We can go to the next slide, and then this is just the next slide is just a brief agenda that kind of discusses an overview of what we're going to talk about today. I wanted to touch a little bit on, I'll try to go quickly through kind of what the framework is for our agency and what our purpose is. And then I'll talk a little bit to some of the highlights that have happened over the past year so that you can see, where our efforts have been focused and how that we are utilizing the resources that you provide for us. And then we will kind of frame what the veteran population is for the state, and then dive deeper into what the impacts are to the various communities throughout the state, what that means. We'll touch on the veterans homes, just to kind of give you a quick update and some context there on what we do out there. The cemetery is the same. And then at the end, we'll just kind of review the takeaway slide on what we've kind of captured throughout the brief. So if we go to the next slide, this is a slide that many of you probably have seen before. We use this to help. It's kind of a one slider to provide an overview for our agency. In the center blue circle, you'll see 4 kind of operational lines of effort there of what we do. In the upper left, advise, assist veterans and their eligible family members. That has to do primarily focused on veteran services. We have field offices throughout the state. We have mobile units that respond to and various requests from communities that ask for mobile services to come out and to share information to provide veteran services to rural communities or to the urban communities, as it were, as well. We also have a quality assurance office that all of our claims that get processed, they get funneled through there just to make sure it's one last check, to do our best to our due diligence to make sure that they are as correct as possible so that we don't have claims of veterans getting turned back because, block 25 wasn't filled in with a date, or it wasn't signed, or things like that. Now, they don't have the full context of what that veteran's claim is, so it's not necessarily going into each document to make sure that they have all the, that they've covered all the bases on the thing, but they do a quick cursory glance at what are the claims that are being presented, the administrative side of it, and then they'll look at kind of what is the general theme of what is being presented, and a quick glance to make sure that the supporting documents are there as needed. And then there's the Veterans Claims Assistance Program. We are joined at the hip here with our Veteran Service Organization partners. In this case, it's the VFW and the American Legion. And they work alongside us, performing kind of like parallel services at the healthcare centers in Topeka, Leavenworth, and Wichita, as well as they have representation in the regional office down in Wichita. So you'll hear more about the VCAP a little bit later, but this is a $1 million grant program whereby the state appropriates dollars to us for the program, and then we disperse it to the veteran service organizations kind of to their needs. It is done each month. They come back and provide invoices of their services and the work that they have done, and it's reconciled, and then dollars are then allocated to them or assigned to them, then distributed to them based on that process each month. So that's how it's covered right now. Each of those service organizations receives $500,000 a year, and it's used to help fund their operations and to pay the salaries and wages of those individuals that serve in those locations. A great combat multiplier, because obviously they have posts throughout the state, and so they leverage that well, and they're able to help us communicate and inform veterans throughout the state where we may not have direct coverage in some of the more rural areas where we kind of have an economy effort. We may have one individual out in the Northwest that covers like 15 counties. Obviously, there are multiple VFW posts throughout that area that help us, and so they're able to help energize that effort. In the upper right is the veteran cemeteries. In the blue, you see to honor our veterans and their eligible family members. This has to do with, providing that dignity and respect for our veterans there in their final resting place. In the lower left-hand corner is the state veterans homes. So a lot of people don't know there's 2 veterans homes in the state, one at Fort Dodge, one at Winfield. Between them, we average right around 195 to 200 veterans. We have about 100, we have 105 right now down at Winfield, and we had 89 out at Dodge. So it's a combination of it's mostly predominantly long-term care, and there is some assisted living domiciliary services that are provided to veterans at those locations. Eligible dependents can also reside in these homes, and so as they go through that process with each home and they apply, they may be eligible as well, even if their veteran spouse perhaps or had passed away. There's still an eligibility there for those folks to go to reside there. And so as you can kind of see from this, various efforts going on here, pretty distinct and different things that are going on with veteran services and what we do to advise, assist folks. And then obviously the cemeteries and what's done there with a staff of about 20 people in the cemeteries program, running 4 cemeteries. And then down at the veterans home, that's where most of our staff operate. Out of the 300 and roughly 70 to 380 folks that we have working, about I'm trying to think through this real quick. I apologize. So of that, about 280 of our staff of that full FTE amount reside or operating at the homes. So that's all your nurse care, your skilled caregivers, dietitians, housekeepers, and whatnot. If we can go to the next slide, please. So just to touch on a couple of the highlights here, as you'll see at the top of that slide, this is the number of claims that have been done over the past year that went through our quality assurance folks. This is quite a significant increase through the last 3 or 4 years since the introduction of the PACT Act at the federal level there back in August of 22. We've seen a steady increase in the number of claims that are being processed. And so we're really quite proud of that. And that's due in large part to the efforts of Eric's team and all the folks there across that, again, in partnership and in conjunction with our veteran service organizations that do a large bulk of this as well at each of those healthcare centers. And then the other part of it is you go down to the next piece here, performing over 131 outreach events in addition to the 579 or so itinerants. The itinerants are travel that's done by each individual field office as they extend their services and their reach out into the rural community. So they don't just park in one location. They are going out throughout the month. They spend time at various municipalities or libraries, what have you, and they're announced there so that we try to get to the veterans where they live to make it as easy as possible for them. And then on top of that, we have the outreach events. They kind of range from our mobile events to what I kind of call mid-tier hybrid events where we go out to just various veterans events that are being done by a number of nonprofits or other things around the state that we synchronize with other agencies, and we are able to provide services there too. And then we have what I kind of call our outreach events that are on steroids. We did one at Wyandotte in coordination with the VA, where we bring in like medical examiners and VA resources to help us, as well as a number of vendors that come in. And our outreach coordinator, Shelley Sweeney, is the one that kind of helps coordinate that and supervise all of that. And she does that in conjunction with Rob Light, our Director of Operations. So they work together, again, with Eric's team to bring resources to bear at those locations. But I kind of say they're on steroids because we really work hard to market those and advertise those and get the word out with the VA because of the resources that we have there that we're able to provide. And so we did one in Wyandotte, we did one out in Garden City, and we did one in Pittsburgh. The first one of the year last year was in January, and it was canceled due to several circumstances from the VA level because of various resources that were available at that time. It was scheduled for like January 20th or 21st, and due to a number of reasons there, it had to be canceled. So these are great opportunities to bring our veterans in and help them. Bullet 3 has to do with the grant program for the Winfield expansion. We're putting in a new garden down there. It's about $1.3 million. It'll handle up to 550 caskets and then 550 in-ground cremations. So this is quite a good thing for us here right now. That's fully funded by the federal VA, and they have started the work on this. It should be done in June of 27. There'll be no interruption to services right now that we project. We will still be able to handle based on what we're seeing the trends are out there. It's been projected out and should not be a problem with that piece. But they are in the process now of surveying that out and digging the various plots here to put the grave liners in and set all that up. So that's on course and all good to go. Again, fully funded by the federal VA. We have completed the design for the new veterans home. That was done like last February. There have been a couple other things we had to close up the loop on. Was an environmental survey that was done, and we sent that out for public notice the first week of December. It closed on January 5th. We received one gentleman's comments of a list of concerns that we're addressing. They had to do with I'm not going to pronounce it, the northern such and such bat, and it's kind of its habitation in that area, to make sure we gave due consideration to that. Noise abatement consideration and storm drainage. So they asked to relook at that, and we're working with our teams, our architect engineering teams, as well as OFPM to make sure that we have duly considered all those concerns. The next bullet down about we received, our home down at Winfield has done very, very well, and it's been ranked as a 5-star facility now from like 14 of the last 15 quarters that it's been operating down there. So that's really a testament to the great staff they have down there, the leadership, and what they've done to ensure the quality care there for all of those veterans down there, and the staffing that they've been able to improve to get up to take care of business there. The one out at the Soldiers Home is a 4-star facility right now. Again, we just went through a recent survey, and it did very well with regard to a VA survey. They get surveyed twice a year right now from CMS and from the VA, each aspect of it. So the assisted living gets surveyed by both organizations, and the long-term care does, kind of 2 separate and distinct surveys that are done for each of those each year. There is legislation that's being introduced at the federal level to combine, to make it so that they only get one survey in each of those areas each year. They would work in coordination, that CMS may do it one year, VA the next, and just alternate. But that's pending, but just to make you aware that that is out there being considered. Multiple CIP projects. I won't go into all of these. I mean, some of these are a number of things that have to do with life safety out at the homes. I say life safety. These are things like upgrading, fire safety panels, or improving HVAC systems, roofs to help keep from the leaks and things like that may be happening in some of these older facilities. Lighting outside of one of the facilities down at the Veterans Home to help so that residents and guests have a better visibility as they come through that area to visit their loved ones. So there's a number of these things that are going on. Again, they're focused on quality of life and life safety things, just so you know that these things are continuing to be looked at and to improve their living conditions at each one of those facilities, so that we stay on top of that. And then the last piece is we're planning to move right now down to the Landon building. It's scheduled to be executed on the 9th of February. So we're kind of in the midst of that right now, preparing our move. It will not interrupt our operations right now. This has been going on and been planned for about the last 6 to 8 months. It's all kind of tied to the docking building and the occupations there. We're going to be moving from a private leased facility where we're at in Jayhawk Tower into the Landon State Office building. And so there are some cost considerations with that, obviously, as we are planning for the move. and the kind of the upgrades to that space. And that's all kind of in the works and been calculating right now. Before we get a final piece on that, we'll make sure we follow through with that as well. But this gives us an opportunity to have some better space capacity to be able to do some of our operations that we're talking about. If you go to the next slide, please. And this is just a quick overview of the population here. Just wanted to kind of give you a demographic to help see ourselves, if you will, here in the state of Kansas. So we have roughly, again, you can Google a number of sources that you may get different numbers on. Our latest number we've been using, and we're still kind of going back and forth with stats back to 23 and 24, but it's the number of veterans is roughly 180,000 right now in the state. There is kind of a steady decrease, and we kind of attribute that right now to what you're seeing, I think, with Vietnam era veterans. And there's that's probably one of the largest populations of veterans right now that we have in our communities. And as you see these folks starting to reach an age where, unfortunately, several are starting to pass, that's where we kind of see the largest decline of our veteran population. If you look out to the far right, there's roughly 24,000 that are 80 or above. Obviously, there's still some that remain here with us from World War II. Relatively small number, probably under 500. And then you have a little bit larger number that are the Korean War veterans. And then obviously the Vietnam era, you can see kind of starts to flow over into that age area. So the biggest number, we try to kind of put groups up there by the eras that they served. You can see where the Vietnam are. They're about 40,000. They're 70, 79 years old. And then you have from the 60s kind of on down is the post 9/11 GWAT population of veterans in our state. So as we look at this, you can, like I said, I expect you're going to kind of continue to see a little bit of a decline in the veteran population. It's a gradual decline. We're working hard to do all we can, kind of hand in glove with the legislature to have programs in place in the state, from the things that are going on with economic development and jobs and various benefits that are provided for our veterans to help retain veterans here in the state, and then to also attract those who may be interested in coming back to the state. They may have been assigned here and they want to come back, or their home of record may be in Kansas, and we're trying to reach out, find ways to connect with them to entice these folks to want to come back to Kansas where they can live, work, and retire. So we're pretty proud of our state and all that it offers, and we continue to build on that. You go to the next slide, please. This is a little bit busy. I apologize for that. The bottom line is the blue are numbers from FY23, and the orange are FY24. Starting in the left-hand side, this is called VA financial impact. These are dollars that are coming back into our state, either directly or indirectly, going back to our veterans in your communities, in our communities. In the far left, there is compensation, pension, and the DIC piece, which is the indemnity clause for spouses whose veteran has passed away. And this is a benefit that they may receive, a benefit entitlement if the spouse passed due to some service-connected contributing factor is in their death. So a combination of all that, you can see it's about $1.27 billion in the state. So a pretty significant number that's coming back to our state. Again, between our partners and us, we contribute probably almost 50% of that is attributed to what our folks are doing out there. So there's a number of sources. Veterans can do this, privately. They can use attorneys. They can go out to various other agencies that will assist them in being able to apply for benefits, as well as other veteran service organizations like Disabled American Veterans or AMVETS or some other folks that can also be accredited to assist them. So it's not just, VFW, Legion, and the Kansas Office of Veteran Services. But again, a significant number. That's where we kind of see our return on investment. That's the kind of the business side of this thing for us, is being able to provide for these veterans and to help improve their quality of life, but then also to help make them better fit with VA healthcare and with various compensation that makes them kind of more valued members too of your communities that can still go back and return to work. The medical care piece is the other big chunk of the overall. It's about $1.2 billion. Again, that's going back largely to the federal VA healthcare facilities and the community-based outpatient clinics. So it's almost an even split there between them. Then there's some other smaller categories in education like GI Bill, things of that nature. And then there's kind of a lump sum of other expenses, but it's like construction and some other things where federal dollars are coming back into our state to, either directly or indirectly support our veterans. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to kind of give you a little bit more context behind some of these numbers.
Way too tall. All right. Thank you. I'm Eric Rowland. I'm the Deputy Director for the agency. Been with the agency since 2008, so a long time, but I started out in Western Kansas after I retired from the Air Force and went back to Hayes, and they were advertising for veteran service representative jobs. So I started out in one of those field offices out in Hayes, responsible for 14 counties, and kind of moved my way east. So now I'm over here at Jayhawk Tower in the leadership team, and I'm very proud to serve veterans for this many years. So director was way too kind. He should have said, yeah, that's Eric's busy slide. It's not that busy. Once you get it on hard copy in front of you, it's much easier to read. So, but yes, it is very busy. You can actually go to the next slide. We're going to dig deeper into those numbers that you just saw. So, for those that have seen, I think some of you on here have seen the GDX report, the geographic distribution of expenditures from the federal VA. So they meticulously always had those out by April every year from the previous federal fiscal year. And this last year, it just never was distributed or sent out to all the states. And they, so they've changed it up a little bit. Now they divide it up between direct and indirect benefits and expenditures to each state. So we're going to drill down just a little bit deeper. I'm going to kind of talk about what the difference is and how that actually affects the veterans of the state of Kansas and how much actually comes back into your individual cities and counties and districts. So any of this data, if you want that either on a hard copy sheet or digits or data or email to you so you can see exactly what monies are coming back into your, by zip code, by city, by county, we are able to give that to you so you can see exactly how that affects the veterans of your counties. So in the upper left-hand corner, the VA direct expenditures, the director spoke a little bit about the compensation and pension and DIC. So this one breaks it out even more. So the compensation and pension, as you can see, is it's very significant. As a matter of fact, if you remember back to the second slide where it talked about the highlights of that $1.1 billion, the American Legion, the VFW, and the KOVS are responsible for about $500 million, a little over $500 million of that amount of us actually frontline helping veterans either apply for their claims and develop their claims, appeal their claims, and assist in them getting those benefits back in their pockets so they can spend it in the state of Kansas. So loan guarantee program, it's kind of misleading because there's not, if you look at the $291,000, it's not, loan guarantee for the VA is only a portion what they guarantee for the entire loan. So there's hundreds of millions of dollars of VA loans in Kansas, but the VA guarantees that much. So the insurance is what was paid out in federal fiscal year 24 in insurance payments for next of kin and surviving spouses. And then the DIC, the director said, he explained that a little bit, dependency indemnity compensation, which again is for surviving spouses as well as parents and children of service members that have passed away, veterans that have passed away due to a service-connected illness or injury. Okay, and then the indirect expenditures, the memorial benefits are any of the burial benefits that are received by veteran or by next of kin again for interring their veterans in a private cemetery. Also, The plot allowance that we get is also lumped into that. So we receive a portion of that for our cemetery budget. And then the grave markers, the flags, so that's all kind of put in together in memorial affairs. Construction, so that has anything to do with if you ever, anybody down from the Sedgwick County or Wichita area, there's a lot of construction going on at that Dole VA Medical Center out or down in on Kellogg there. A lot of improvements. When I was in Hayes, that was my primary care medical center, and well, it just looks like a whole different facility now since they've added on and continue to add on. The education and voc rehab is huge. That's where the veteran is paid for the GI Bill. The schools are paid by the VA for the GI Bill benefits and education benefits, as well as anything from Chapter 33, which is post 9/11. Chapter 31 is VR&E, as well as or voc rehab and education, as well as Chapter 35 of the 38 CFR, which is dependency education. So all those, again, amount to a significant amount. It's $100 million coming in the state of Kansas to the schools. Medical care, like the director said, he already covered that. It's, wages for doctors, medical care, everything is again broken down into or put into that bucket of medical care. And then SAH is housing, adaptive housing, as well as a vehicle and equipment, adaptive equipment for veterans that are in need of ramps out in front of their homes, and adaptive equipment for vehicles are, if they qualify based on their service-connected illness, they can actually go get an adapted vehicle to get a ramp out the side of the van, all kinds of things. So that's very significant. As you can see, it's over $1 million there. Okay, next slide. So this is just kind of a, population slide that has to do with the top 10 most veteran populous counties. It's this is quite interesting because of the $2.6 billion that come into the state of Kansas, of the top 10 counties, you can see there about 1.9 billion go into the top 10 counties. Doesn't mean that, Stanton County or any other county out in Western Kansas is any less important. However, there's obviously higher population of veterans in these counties here. So, like the director said, we are in all 105 counties, whether it's one of our field offices or itinerant visits or outreach visits. We have touched all 105 counties in the last year. So we always do. We don't neglect. I think there's, of the last veteran population count in Stanton, I believe there was listed at 62 veterans. So, as opposed to the 32 or 35,000 veterans in Sedgwick County. Very, very large. And then the monetary awards, again, is the direct compensation back into those counties. So, again, just interesting data to have, and we will be able to get that all out to you in a hard copy format if you'd like it. Okay. I would have put up the 10 least populous counties too, but yeah, that's it's just very interesting. You can see obviously the centers of population kind of coincide with obviously the counties that we have. Next slide. And I think I'm going to turn it back over to the director. So unless you have any questions at the end. Oh, here's a question right here.
Thank you very much. I do have a few questions, and because I live next door to Fort Riley, excuse me, I serve a community that has a lot of soldiers in it, and I have some questions. I want to know, and if you don't have, you can get it back to me. I know that Mr. Turner mentioned the number of Kansans that are veterans, and I missed that. I don't know if it's 150 or 180,000. 180. I couldn't quite understand that. Thank you. And the GI Bill, because we have Kansas State University there, I'd like to know how many people or how many dollars that's putting into our local economy, our state economy. And also, I'm interested in knowing what the housing allowance is and how that works in our area. I don't know if it's area specific, but thank you, Mr. Chair, and you can get back to me on any of that. Thank you.
Okay, I can tell you part of that. The housing allowance, it depends on zip code, on area, and roughly $1,500 the BAH for out in Dodge City and Hayes, 1,500 roughly. I'll get you exact figures on those. And then it's about 1,800 in your area, in the Geary and Riley area, so 1,800 BAH. So, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, but who is eligible for that kind of an amount? Does it depend on their rank or anything? Okay,
Mr. Chair. No, it does not depend on rank. So this is, there's a lot of factors that go into that. If you receive, for instance, Chapter 35, or you're receiving a GI Bill benefit or education benefit for taking an OJT or apprenticeship course, that's all you receive is the BAH, nothing else, okay? Full-time students, those are the numbers that I was giving to you for a full-time student. You do not, it can be an online course, and the VA has recently in the last few years changed it to where the students actually reside, not where the school is. It used to be the other way around. But so those are the individuals, if you are taking full-time, considered full-time courses, then you receive the BAH, whether it's in person or online. Depends on the modality. Yes. BAH, basic allowance for housing. Yep, that's what you receive. As for the actual dollar impact for Kansas State, I can get you those numbers. I can tell you exactly how many students are receiving benefits. And we can break that down by county. I don't think, I might be able to drill down and on the system that I can get into. I'm also the director of state approving agency, so we have other systems that we can go into and see how many students have been paid how many dollars to each education institution. So yes, I'll have to get back to you on that.
yeah, thank you very much, because housing is an issue across the nation. That's a very good housing allowance. I'm happy that they get that. It also drives it up for everybody else. So we just need to know what these factors are in our community, and we're doing a community survey that this will be helpful information for me to put in. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
And I will tell you that the Chapter 33 benefits that they give, and I have two kids in college, is very, very generous, and they do a great job. So I'm really appreciative of that. Go ahead.
Okay, that's all I have.
Is there any more questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. 180,000 veterans in the state right now. I know that's what I get. That's from you and your organization. What I want to know is how many veteran service officers are there for that 108? In other words, can you break it down by a percentage of how many veteran service across the state that we have that are working with those veterans? Can you break that down for me, or do you have that data?
Mr. Chair. So, Representative, I can break that down. I can give that to you. I can give you rough numbers right now. So we've got 23 veteran service representatives that are accredited. That's the Kansas Office of Veteran Services. And we've got about 10 for the Legion and VFW, each of them, 9 or 10. They have a little higher turnover rate than we do. But so you're talking 23 plus 20, so that's 43 veteran service representatives that are accredited that can prosecute claims for the veterans and family members for the 180,000.
I think, and the ones that are, under the organization of either the VFW or the American Legion, are they housed in the veteran, like the VA centers here and Wichita, or are they out anywhere else?
For the Kansas Office of Veteran Services, we are primarily in the field offices throughout the state. We do have one representative here in Topeka over at Colmary O'Neill at the VA Medical Center. And then we have a mobile that resides in the regional office down in Wichita. And then we are also in the Federal Vet Center in Wichita, and that's where our field office is, down in Wichita. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any more questions?
We've got a few more slides the director's going to cover. So if you can think of a question, we'll be right here.
So I'll try to get through a few of these slides sort of fairly quickly here at the end. But if I can, just to add on a little bit to what Eric was saying. So you talked about the state approval authority. They're the ones that they review the curriculums out at each of these institutions. It could be technical colleges, the higher learning 4-year graduate program. They are the ones that review those curriculums to make sure that they are validated for use of the GI Bill. So that is done there as well. And then the veterans also, many can transfer, be able to transfer their GI Bill benefit to their children. So in many cases out there too, you'll find that is a circumstance now too, that this is being passed on to children of veterans who are attending these institutions as well in the communities. And then one last piece, sort of the veteran services piece. So, Eric's talking to how we are distributed kind of geographically. We are trying to meet a blend of having people that are out there, accessible, a presence out in the various rural communities and throughout to help. And then the ones that are kind of based in the medical centers are our partners that are from the Veterans of Foreign Wars and American Legion. So he talked about 10 each from those organizations. They are split between those 4 facilities, primarily the 3 healthcare facilities and then the regional office in Wichita. So they have varying from 3 to 4 probably at each one of those facilities located there to serve veterans who are coming in there largely. The next slide. So I just want to touch on the census. This is kind of, I guess if you go back, I'm sorry, I apologize. So in the upper left there is the facility at Fort Dodge, and you can kind of see it's a sprawling facility. It's something like over 700-800 acres. You can see all the structures on that. Quite a facility to run there. Our census is averaged right around 90 here for the last several years. When I first got here, I'd gotten here just kind of on the back end of COVID in August of 21, and we were probably hovering somewhere around 75, 77. And so you can kind of see coming out of that, I think we kind of starting to regain the trust and confidence of our veterans and, really of senior folks here that, may have felt somewhat of a risk to go into one of these facilities, but now, starting to kind of return there. So, and then down the lower left-hand corner are the numbers there for the veterans home, where, like I said, we're averaging right around 103, 104 right now here over the last several months. So we have 105 now. And that's an old state hospital facility in the right. But both of these facilities were repurposed, for this reason. Largely all going very well. Our staffing is very good out there, but we continue to have challenges with folks out in these areas as far as we still have a turnover rate that probably hovers right around 30% for skilled caregivers. And then when you factor in all of the other support folks that are there with, dietitians, housekeepers, maintenance, it lowers that amount down. But so we're probably hovering right around between 20 and 25% turnover, which is really a significant decrease for us overall. But you still have this turnover that largely manifests itself with your CNAs, with your med aides, nurse aides that are kind of a lot of the younger folks that may be more transitional going through there. The next slide, please. This is kind of talks about the new veterans home. Again, just to revisit this, we had the $17.2 million that was appropriated from the state that represents the 35% match required in order for us to go apply for a federal grant. We are on priority group 1 of that list down at it's a bullet, like the 4th or Yeah, the fourth one down talks about 924 VA released. So in the latest list right now, we are in priority group 1, so we're in the top priority list, but we're number 78 out of 81. Those projects add up to somewhere between 1.2, 1.5 billion dollars, and the federal government has only appropriated about $170 million toward projects. So the likelihood is that they'll only probably fund 5 to 8 of the projects on the list. So you can kind of see where we reside down there. Now, I understand back in like 2018 that there was a push made where they cleared the docket here, if you will, and so they were able to provide appropriations that was able to do that. So it's kind of unpredictable for us right now, but the grant that we're looking for out there is the other 32 million. Of the 17.2 we got, we have expended about 2.8 million on our design and engineering. That's all complete. And as far as environmental studies and geological studies and things of that nature, that's what those funds have been expended on. If you go to the next slide, please, is just a touch on the cemeteries program. So again, over the last few years in the middle of the chart, you'll see where the number of burials per year, we're averaging right around 450 to 460 number of interments. Of that, in the blue box out to the right, you'll see in FY24, about 75% of the veterans, 75% of the interments were veterans. And why is that important is because we receive funding from the federal VA to support those operations. We get about $1,000 in what's called plot allowance for each veteran who is interred in one of our state veteran cemeteries. And so part of our funding to run that operation is SGF, obviously, but then a large portion too is it kind of ebbs and flows based on obviously the plot allowance that we receive to be able to run those operations out at those facilities and to help contribute to their salaries and wages. The other 25% are obviously eligible dependents. We do not charge for that. We do not receive any plot allowance. So as long as we have the funding available, we can make that work. We do our very best to accommodate dependents that are eligible to be interred there. Another key piece of this you'll see out in the little gray cloud there is we have over 9,700 pre-certifications. So our cemetery director, Heidi Goff, who lives out in Waukene, she has done really a miraculous job of going around and working with various local funeral homes and local communities to inform folks, to help educate them on this benefit that's available for veterans. And as you can see, we have 9,700 folks that are already pre-certified for interment into our cemeteries. The next slide, please. If I can, just to touch on one last thing, there's the 2 cemetery ceremonies that happen for those that may be new here. Is the Wreaths Across America that happens in December is a large ceremony that we run out at each of our cemeteries. We get tremendous support from the communities and other organizations there to support veterans. And then Memorial Day, obviously, as well. The agency trends, and this is kind of I think it's the last slide to break away from, is just a reminder. We continue to press the outreach as much as we can. We don't want to just be sitting stagnant or passive and waiting for veterans to come to us. We've been doing our very best over the last several years to go out to veterans where they are, to go out into communities. The outreach activities from mobile to what's being done by Shelley it is helping to kind of to spur that information flow and the interest out there in the veteran community, as well as to local, city governments, chambers of commerce, any groups that we can kind of latch onto to go help inform them what we do. Shelley's been kind of spearheading a road show, if you will. Over the summer, we were able to cover probably about nearly half of the state, going out to various counties and meeting with folks. And then here just recently, Shelley herself was out in Scott and out in Oakley here on Tuesday. I believe you were in Oakley meeting with city council members there and advising them. And then she brings one of our representatives with them so they can kind of place a face with a name that they're seeing, orients them to our websites. This helps get folks in the right way, and then explains to them the impacts and the economic impact that we talk about to their communities and how we're trying to improve the veterans' quality of life. The Veterans Home Census we already talked about. I mean, it has kind of plateaued probably over the last 6 to 8 months. We're continuing to push that with folks to make sure they understand that this is a benefit available to them. And and then with the projects that we can do and to bring people through to see that what we're doing to improve the facilities and the infrastructure that are on location there. And then lastly, the Veterans Cemeteries piece, we talked to about some of the expansion projects that are going on there at Winfield, as well as some other projects to provide bathroom facilities and the committal shelters, because if you go to one of our cemeteries, the committal shelter is kind of removed from the admin building. And so as we found over the years, you conduct these ceremonies, the nature of the crowd and the folks that are out there, rather than having to force them to kind of go back, they're out there for a period of time. And so we found that this is something that was desired to try to do, and we're working through that as well to best accommodate those folks. We're also in the process of putting in memorial walks at each of our cemeteries. We're just starting this piece. The idea being to put some benches and various memorabilia to represent the various service components, and a place really for family and loved ones and comrades that served with these folks to be able to go through and reflect and to kind of have a moment of solitude as they reflect on their loved one. Last slide is just a remembrance that 11 February is Military Appreciation Day, Armed Forces Appreciation Day here in Kansas. A number of events that will be going on that day, to include presentations to our outstanding airmen and soldiers that Keith is overseeing right now amongst all of us. There'll also be a Governor's Military Council meeting that day of the various leaders of military groups here in the state. And then we'll be making proclamations from the governor on Armed Forces Appreciation Day and Vietnam Veterans Day, which I think is March 29th. So we're getting ahead of that a little bit, but wanting to get that out there to make sure that we can get that word out to veterans. And also, we have the honor of being able to present, we have 3 Gold Star, I apologize. We have 3 Vietnam veterans that we will be presenting Vietnam era medallions to. This is something unique to our state that was started, I think, back in 2014. We got well over like 8,500 of these that have been presented to Vietnam veterans. It's our way of offering some small recognition and thanks, gratitude to them for their service and all that they did for us back there in the 60s and 70s. So, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity, and we'll stand for any questions.
All right, representatives, any questions? I think Deb can provide them. Yeah, we'll get you those slides. Representative Butler?
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for Eric. Thanks for a great briefing. Couple of questions I had. How many vets can you see in one day with the mobile clinics that go out? I know you guys are getting swamped and you have a lot come in there. How many can you actually see in one day?
So it's hard to put a number on that, sir, because obviously each one that comes in has a unique set of circumstances with them. And so some are only coming in to seek maybe powers of attorney or update some documents. Some want to come in and just check their status of claims. Some may be full blown that have never been with the VA. And in that case, if they bring all their information and they have it with them, that individual can take, an hour and a half to 2 hours to go through and to weed through all their documents and do the research to help initiate a claim for them. But they go out to a standard event, they're probably seeing, they can easily see probably over, 30 to 40 in a day. If we have multiple people there, if it's just one person, then obviously it's a little bit more limited. The mobile is probably more focused on trying to market and get information out to various groups. They're the ones that go and they'll park at a Home Depot or a Walmart or things like that, or a county, they'll go out to some county event and they're a presence there. But as you know, in many cases, people may not bringing all their stuff there, but it's a chance for us to hand out paraphernalia to them, to make them aware of us, and then come back and see one of our other folks.
Thank you. I know Ron, when he comes with the mobile clinic to Freedom Fest in Junction City, we set him up out there in Promontory and he's able to work with it. Another activity that the state of Kansas has been involved in is called Love Kansas. Over the last year, I know Gary County or Junction City Main Street received $5,000 from the state of Kansas, a grant to send letters out, to do events that would encourage people that live outside the state that have called this home to come back. And we talked about those who have a home of record here. How would we go about getting a list? I'm assuming there's a possibility to do it, of those that are either their home of record here, but they may have a residency claimed in Texas or something there. Especially as we look at HB 2036 as we come down the road. Hopefully this session on that. A way to reach out to those, maybe to send letters to them and encourage them to to come back. I know our high school has done letters. We've done letters in town, various opportunities to send it to people living outside the state to encourage them to come home. So just thought about that for the military and veterans.
Yes, sir. So we are starting, I mean, that's been the biggest challenge, friction point probably since, it's been for years, quite frankly, I'm sure well before I came on board, but is the information sharing and trying to be able to be proactive to get this information so that we can go out and serve our veterans. The VA obviously has access to a great deal of data that for various reasons they're unable to share with us. And so we have to work through them, beside them, to ask for and request information. Just recently now we've started to receive information from DOD that speaks to exactly what you're saying. If it's a veteran, if Turner has listed anywhere that his home of record may be Kansas, or he has an address or something that ties him back to Kansas, then they can go and we're getting some raw data, raw information. We're trying to figure out a way that we can turn it, just like you're saying. If we can get that and put together I call it kind of the Chamber of Commerce brochures or something that, to reintroduce these folks back to Kansas and say, hey, since you've been gone, a lot's changed here, a lot's going on, lots of opportunities, and here that was available to you. We are trying to work through that, sir.
Anybody else? Anyone else?
I was just going to ask about the Vietnam Veterans Day and the recognition for service for Vietnam vets. What would qualify a veteran for that recognition, and how would we go about offering maybe some names of veterans that would qualify?
Yes, ma'am. So we're happy to take those. The criteria right now fundamentally is if they served during that era. So there's a time block in there, 9, 10 years up to 1975, back to 62 to 75. And so if they served at any time during that time frame, they do not have to have necessarily served in country, but if they served in our armed forces during that time period, this is a medallion, a medal. If they apply through us and can provide us a copy of their DD-214, or we can help to validate their service and their service during that time, then we will be happy to come out and present it. There are some folks that just prefer to get it kind of sent to them. We like to be able to get a group of folks so we can go out and recognize them in front of a community so that people can see that in our next generations, and they can stand up and we can, give them due attention there, due recognition for their service.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate that.
Anything else, General Turner?
Sir.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, I just want to remind everybody there's no meeting next Tuesday. And next Thursday, we will, that's the last day to introduce bills. So if you have some, get on it. And we'll start our first hearing probably February 3rd. That's the plan. And that'll be out later on, but just want to let you know that. Is there any of the representatives, anything you want to ask or talk? All right, go ahead. One announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Good morning. I'm Jim Carl Skent. I'm with the VFW. I'm the legislative director for the state in the VFW. And for many of you, I think you received an invitation, but the VFW is having a reception for legislators this coming Monday at the Topeka Hotel from 5:30 to 8:30. I have little flyers here. I'm going to put right here on the end of your things. As you walk out, you can take one. You're more than welcome to come. We invite you to come, encourage you to come. We'd like to show our appreciation for what you as a legislature do, not only for the other veterans in the state, but also for the VFW. And thank you for your time, Mr. Chair, and we'll see you later.
All right. Anybody else? Anything? Veterans Caucus is on Monday. What room? 218 North. And what's it on? Remember? Smart. Okay, so there is a Veterans Caucus. You're all welcome to it. And with that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.